You want to just take it to the back? So first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. This is great. This is our chance in Merlin to really have our day, have our time with the candidates, which doesn't happen often.
Who are you?
My name's Linda Spangler. Did you not hear? Anyway, thanks for coming. I'd like to introduce John West, in case you guys couldn't figure it out. Brian Taylor Grange, Jonathan Knapp, and Sheriff Dave Daniel.
And Christine.
And, well, we'll get to her.
Oh.
She's heading up our evening.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way we're gonna work it is, everybody that wanted to ask a question was able to write it out and put it in the basket. We're gonna pull the questions at random and read them for the candidates. So, they get 1 minute to respond, and if it's a question for, say, both the commissioner candidates, then there'll be a 30-second rebuttal that can happen. So, any questions about that?
May I ask just one question?
Sure.
Did you say Christine is going to speak afterwards?
No, she's gonna speak right now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, as soon as I'm done with
Good.
the introductions.
Okay.
and stuff.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Linda, we did a forum at the Grants Pass golf course.
Uh-huh.
And there was a certain number of rebuttals. Is that the case in this one? Otherwise, or is it just free for all?
Why don't we go with 2 rebuttals?
Okay.
So that way, if Jonathan's asking a question, you can respond, then he can respond. That's 2, right?
Oh, I was talking just total.
Limited rebuttals per candidate.
That's what they did. They limited rebuttals per candidate, and they set the number at, I think, 4.
Oh, no, we're not gonna do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, because first of all, this is a small group.
Right. Gotcha.
And I think we have plenty of time to get everybody's questions answered.
Sure.
So I'd like to introduce our House District 4 representative, Christine Goodwin. She's coming to us to explain the redistricting. So for some of us, she's our new rep. For others, she's our old rep. So I prefer the new rep. So anyway,
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be here. Merlin, you are my people. I have been your state representative and for the last year and will continue to be. So currently, you are in House District 2, and I've been serving, I was appointed to that term, that 1.5 left term. Did you all know Gary Leaf? He was your representative, and he passed away. This is hard, in July, so that seat needed to be appointed. So my phone rang and people asked me to consider this, and frankly, I haven't been in the Capitol in 20 years. I really didn't know what was going on in Salem, I knew I didn't like what was coming out of Salem. I did not like the direction of government, and so when this became available to me, I thought, I'm gonna lean into this. I'm gonna step in. There were 7 candidates. We had to get through the PCP process, and then the commissioners appointed the position. I serve 3 counties, so I have Douglas, Jackson, and Josephine. Now with the redistricting, House District 2 moves a little further north. I am running for Dwayne Stark's seat, House District 4. And it's basically Canyonville to Central Point, and kind of along I-5. It's really an odd district. All of our districts are about 17,000 people. And in our rural areas, that's a lot of people to get to around to and get to know. So these kinds of community events are really great for me. I want to introduce myself to you so you are comfortable reaching out to me. And when things are happening in your community that you want to talk to me about, I'm really happy to engage with you. Brought some cards and so on tonight, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. So Salem, I'm a native Oregonian, and I'm not going to leave my home. I'm invested here. And I can see this opportunity. This has been complete Democratic control in Oregon for 10 years. I mean, they really do hold all the levers of power. So when you have the governorship, the Senate, the House, Secretary of State, you have the Supreme Court, you know, it is really grueling to be in the House chamber and there are 60 state representatives. There are 23 of us Republican, 37 Democrat. So one of the only weapons, which we have to use very carefully, which we actually have considered on a couple of occasions with redistricting, one of the weapons is to deny quorum. Because if you can't get 40 people on the floor, you cannot gavel in. And representatives before the Republican caucus before me is actually walked on one occasion. One of your ballot measures, by the way, is about that. So watch for that. They want to take that ability for us to walk away. So they're using it, they're cloaking it in unexcused absences. If you have more than 10, then you won't be able to run for office. So I would really urge you to vote against that, because when you're in a severe minority like this is truly something that's important to maintain. Once they're on the floor with 31, it's baked in. They've got the votes. And we have been so weak, we've not been able to really, we have to persuade 8 Democrats to come our direction. You know, there's some moderates in there, maybe 3 or 4. I mean, there are some really young, very ideologue Democrats out of Portland that want to run the show, and they want to impose their will on the rest of the state. Oh, I have to. So, it is a battle. I will tell you, this year we have been fighting hard for these seats. It's very likely we're going to get 25, which stops big tax bills. We get to 28, now we only have to pull, and that actually allows some of those Democrats, those moderates, to come our direction on some bills. Of course, if we get 31, we've got the gavels, right? And there's a lot of power in those chairs in the committees in the state. They can really, they can allow something to even be discussed, have a public hearing, a work session on that. They have complete control whether that bill really, not complete, but you know, they can kill a bill pretty easily. So I have 3 big committees. I've been serving on behavioral health, which is dealing with a lot of that mental illness and addiction in our state. I just have been appointed by Speaker Rayfield for healthcare, which is one of the big 4 committees in the state. Ways and Means, Revenue, Business and Labor, and Healthcare. That's what I've been doing all summer, is just really getting up to speed on healthcare, because I don't have an opponent, which is great, I guess. But I've been working in environment and natural resources, a lot of stuff coming down with energy and in natural resources, and of course in our beloved timber industry, which I will protect vehemently. So I'm very busy preparing for session and also getting around to constituents and making sure you know how to reach me, that you know how to communicate with me about any issue that's really important to you. So I appreciate your time. I'm gonna be here for a while. Oh, 5 seconds. Oh, she's giving me the
5 minutes.
can I just say one thing about the governor's race?
No.
Okay.
Well, this is a
There's a hard and fast deadlines around.
well, it's a nonpartisan
Okay.
gathering, and we're
My
here
comments are
to
perfectly
talk
not, I'm just telling the way it is right now. All right, thanks guys very much.
Thanks for coming. Okay, so, Mark Jones is gonna be our guy who selects the questions out of the basket. Does anybody have a question that they haven't gotten in the basket?
Yes,
Okay.
we're gonna let them do their opening.
Oh, okay.
3 minutes opening for each candidate. So, John, can we start with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for each one of you coming out tonight. I know your evenings are precious, and I appreciate your time coming out. My name's John West. I was born here in Grants Pass, and I'm a small business owner, and I'm asking for your vote for county commissioner. It's time that we go a new direction. It's time that we change what has been going on at the county commissioner office, and we fix the problems, and we don't kick the can down the road anymore. And I have the solutions, I have the answers. But most of all, I think that as a county commissioner, that my job is to work for all the people, 88,000, or so, 87 and some change, whatever it is, we'll just round it to 88, to work and serve every single citizen of Josephine County, from Williams to Cape Junction to Wolf Creek, Sunny Valley, Merlin, Grants Pass. There's not one that isn't more important than the other. And the job of commissioners is to make sure that they listen and hear what the people want and do the will of the people. I know there's a lot of tough decisions to be made. I know that we're not gonna make everyone happy. I already get that. And I don't wear my feelings on my shirt sleeve. And if you elect me as your county commissioner and you come up and stand before me and take your 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it is, to tell me your likes and dislikes, I will thank you for your time. I will not insult you, and I will not degrade you as some of the other commissioners have in the past. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian DeLagrange. I too was born in Grants Pass. I graduated from Grants Pass High School, attended the Air Force Academy for a couple of years, and then I finished up my degree at University of Oregon with a degree in business. I currently serve on the Grants Pass City Council and the Grants Pass School Board. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've seen that decisions are not being made in a methodical way. Decisions are not being made that work in the best interest of everyone in the community. That was happening at the city. We've started working on some of those problems, and we've started making headway, just like I said we were gonna do. And the same thing's happening at the county. The county faces a lot of really big issues with regards to sheriff's funding, fire protection, housing, homelessness, and there's others. Those are the big ones, but I don't see a lot of action coming from the current commissioners to solve those problems. So as John said, if you want to go in a new direction, I think that you have an option here with me to go in a new direction. I have proven that I listen to my constituents. I have proven that I do what my constituents want me to do, and I address the issues that my constituents face. I'll tell you, I think my opponent's more of the same. He would have you say otherwise, but the proof is in the pudding. You can look at my record on my website. You can look at what we've gotten done at City Council and at the school board, and I've produced results. And so I want to continue to produce results for the people in this community. I grew up here, I love Grants Pass, I love Josephine County, and I see that there is a path to solving these problems, and it's not being, that path is not being taken. So I want to work on taking that path with the other two commissioners, and I think we can actually produce results, and I think we can make the county a safer place for everybody and a more prosperous place for everybody. So I would ask for your vote. Thank you.
My name is John Knapp. I'm the candidate for sheriff. I grew up as well here in Josephine County, graduating from Hidden Valley High School. I then went into the United States Air Force and served 4 years there, followed by serving 15 years with the Salvation Army, including the finance officer for the southern half of the state of California. And then I served 18 years with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, the fourth largest sheriff's office in the nation, under Sheriff Joe Arpaio. And the one thing all three of those had was service. Service to my country, service to my communities, and law enforcement and the Salvation Army. My leadership style is service leadership, or leadership service. I lead by example, and I serve people. I'm currently on half a dozen of our local nonprofit and government boards: the Animal Shelter Board, the Dog Control Board, the Salvation Army's Advisory Board, Free Rivers Community Orchestra Board, Redwood Range Executive Committee. I am involved in the community. I own 3 small businesses. I hire local employees that are also part of the community. I love Grants Pass. When I retired from law enforcement, I was too young to be retired and sit around home and do absolutely nothing. So I jumped in feet first into everything I could do. But I have so much more that I can do in law enforcement. And working at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, I bring to Josephine County experiences that I'm sorry you don't get working 18 years of patrol in the city of Grants Pass. I bring a wealth of supervisory skills, budgeting skills, management skills that we just don't have. Ronald Reagan said, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And so I ask you that question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Are you better off now than you were 8 years ago? If you think you are not, or if you think we can move forward quicker and more efficiently and more effectively, then I ask for your vote on November 8th. John Knapp for sheriff.
Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Dave Daniel and I am the Josephine County Sheriff. I have to apologize to John, Brian, and John here because I worked out on a marijuana grow all day today and I took a quick shower before I came here, so if I stink, I apologize. Marijuana, you can't get that stuff off when it gets on you like that. But it was a good bust actually. It was on Upper River Road, about over 2,000 pounds of processed, literally processed down to the bud, and then about another 2,300 plants right in there. So it was good, just another routine day in the office, so to speak. But I had a lot of fun with my team. They're great, a great group of people to work with. I could sit here and I could tell you about some of my merits and my education, Oregon State University, master's down in Southern Oregon University, 8 years in office. I want to dive into it. I want to dive into tonight because we have some real issues going on in Josephine County. Absolutely. I want to talk about House Bill 3000 real quick. Not strong enough. Now, I've been in the legislature and I've lobbied for marijuana monies to come down to Josephine County. Most of the times when I went up there, I got my behind handed to me and sent back packing. But we didn't quit. With Representative Morgan helping out, we fought and we fought and we fought. And we finally have a fairly robust JMET team funded by the state to tackle the problem that Josephine County now faces. So that's one thing. House Bill 3000 basically came from the lobbying up there at the state capitol, and it's not strong enough. It's not. We're not done. We can't be finished. 3000 is the monies we get, and then also the impacts of what the justice system could do to quell what is an epidemic in Josephine County, in my opinion. House Bill 112, the involuntary servitude issue, and that's the one where they're saying that our adults in custody cannot work in the jails as trustees or anything else. It's involuntary servitude. It's a terrible thing to do. That legislation is garbage. So I'm fighting absolutely 112 if I have to at the legislative level to make some improvements. Measure 114, the Second Amendment. Your gun rights, they are paramount to me. They are the most important, your liberty, your freedoms to do what you want to do as an American citizen with the Constitution behind you. Please keep an eye on both of those bills. I am. Unfunded mandates, literally to both, to the Sheriff's Office that will have a financial impact locally. I work with men and women that have courage, compassion. I work every day thinking about my accomplishments and the merit of what we've done here in Josephine County over the last 4 years. And I have 1 second left. Thank you very much for coming. I look forward to talking to y'all.
Now we're gonna start the questions, yeah?
Well, I wasn't prepared to read the questions tonight, so my voice isn't warmed up. So, let's see how this goes. Alright, first one on top. This is for Sheriff. It's not a question for both those, so I don't know. While she's reading that one and checking, I'll grab another one real quick. Let her determine if they can get read. Alright, so let them decide on the ones that I don't believe are actual questions, for both candidates.
Somebody's got two. 1 minute's not
All right.
enough. 1 minute's not enough.
Here's one for both sheriffs. Are you a member of the Constitutional Sheriff's Organization? Dave's mentioned first, so we'll let them.
Yes, I am. I'm a member of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association.
Since when? Oh, sorry.
And so my answer to that question is also yes, I'm a member of the Constitutional Police Officers Association and have been for many years.
Okay.
All right. It says just John, but we'll say for both. What are some, I'm sorry, I guess it'd be, no, it'd be for sheriff. What are some of your ways you plan to use to finance the sheriff's department? Reread that. What are some of the ways you plan to finance the sheriff's department?
Excellent question.
I know.
And may I suggest as a point of order without applying into my time, that some of these questions, even though they say sheriff, might be a fantastic question for all four of us to answer. And that would be a question, that would be a great question for all four of us to answer.
Okay.
But I was asked, so I'll answer. I am not a no new taxes person, and I've been crystal clear from that. I am a no on the sales tax. I don't like it. I think it's deceitful. I think it's misleading, and I think it does things that are inappropriate and does not benefit the citizens of the unincorporated areas of Josephine County, including Merlin. So I am not in favor of that tax. If a tax that is appropriate comes to me, or I can work with the citizens community to come up with one, I wouldn't rule that off the table. But I have a lot of other ideas too for what I call small dollar things, and I've gone over those in a lot of my other debates and stuff. And we can impound cars for DUIs, driving suspended, driving without insurance, charge the impound fees, the storage fees. There are things that we can do. If we currently don't have legislation on the books, we can work with our lovely representatives and senators and stuff to make the laws friendly to help law enforcement get the missions done. And my time is up.
And is that 1 minute? Just
Yes.
whew,
I
quick.
know.
Wow, you're tough. I was here in 2012, and I was working the streets of the city of Grants Pass at that time. I felt the impact of no funds. I know the value of what that does to our community as a whole. When I'm issuing citations to somebody that kicks in the front door of a door that's occupied in a burglary, and I arrest them, put them in handcuffs, give them tickets, send them packing. What I'm most interested in is you having a choice. You having a voice. Putting something before the citizens, whether that be a sales tax, whether that be a seasonal sales tax, whether that be a taxing district or a taxing levy, fine. Whatever it is. I don't care. But you're the ones that have to make that decision. It's my job just to follow you in that regard with the level of funding that I can and do the best darn job that I can. I think we've shown what we can do over the last 4 years, and we've done, in my opinion, amazing things, and we've had an impact. You're seeing more deputies, you're seeing crime that has actually risen, and our calls for service go up, be answered by our people. So all I can ask of you all is the Board of County Commissioners put something on that was very well vetted in numerous groups. That was the one that came to the forefront. It's your choice. Good luck.
All right, so we'll open the same question to both the commissioner candidates. Want me to reread it?
No, I got it. I think. If I don't answer it right, I didn't have it. So it's my opinion that we hire a sheriff to be a sheriff. It's my opinion that we hire a commissioner to figure out the funding for the sheriff. It's not the sheriff's place to figure out his own funding. It's, if you hire me, I'll figure out the funding for the sheriff, because the sheriff should be our #1 priority, keeping our county safe, keeping the people safe. That is my priority as your commissioner, to make sure this sheriff is funded and he has everything he needs to keep every one of you safe. I am not for the sales tax because we are going to take care of Josephine County first. We are going to take care of the people in this county first, and we are going to take care of our sheriff's office first by first taking the money that we have in our $198 million budget, which we have $1.5 million that we sent out of our county that should be going to that sheriff's office. That is gonna go there first if I'm your commissioner. Second is, we are done with time.
Not much time. You gotta go. You gotta go.
Boy, I gotta speak fast.
You gotta go.
Yeah. So, I'm not for the sales tax. The two problems with the sales tax are we have no idea how much money it's gonna bring in. There's a high likelihood it's not gonna bring in enough money for the sheriff, and then we'll still have the same problem we had before. And the other problem is it's tied to the economy so closely that in good years we have enough money, and in down years, the sheriff has issues again, and he's laying off people again. So it doesn't really address the problem we're trying to solve here. The sheriff's office needs stable, consistent funding so he can do long-term planning, so he can retain experienced officers, so we can have a robust sheriff's department, forever. So he needs a permanent funding source. If we're gonna do a permanent funding source for anything, it should be for the sheriff's department. It's the #1 priority service that the county provides. So part of the solution would be a law enforcement taxing district. It's not the whole solution, but that is part of the solution. That would provide the base level of funding so he wouldn't go through these feast or famine cycles. And then there are things we can do to supplement that funding, which could include an absentee property owner fee. That could bring in up to $1 million a year. The county could institute a lodging tax, which would bring in probably about $500,000 a year. And there's some other things that will bring in little chunks of money so that rate doesn't have to be as high for the taxing district.
Thank you.
All right. Sheriff.
Pick on the sheriff tonight. What's going on here?
Abandoned cars, trucks, motorhomes are blighting our communities. What can be done to stop this?
Good question. We currently do, we try. Our volunteers go out, they tag them, and they'll follow up with them, and that's basically a free service for us other than the gas. A lot of those aren't private property. That makes it very difficult to get those removed. A lot of them are not. A lot of them are just on the side of the road. Some of them take time. It's really working in collaboration with the businesses that actually can go and get them and then salvage them somehow, some way. Many don't even want to put their hands on it. So, because it's not, they don't make any money on it. But we are actually doing that. We're very active, and we know that's an issue. We tag them every day, and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And if we can get better at it, we will. If I get more volunteers, we'll go more. But we do actually a pretty good job.
All right.
John, did you want to say something about the plan review?
I think you described what it is. The only thing I would add to it is we know that there are key locations where they abandon vehicles quite often. Stringer Gap Road is the one next to my folks' place. And so the only thing I would do is I would add to our level of enforcement by actually doing the hidden game cameras and stuff and seeing if we can get the license plate numbers and stuff that they drive away in after they've dumped the vehicles. So that maybe we can catch the offenders and stop the littering.
All right, this one is directed at John West. The assessor records show your approach, the assessor's record shows your property on Dog Creek Road being transferred 4 times between Brimstone Natural Resources and Westlands Contracting Companies, your own, between 2016 and 2019. Please explain.
Well, I'm not sure what that has to do with being a county commissioner, but you know what? I'll answer anyone's question they ask me. So, Brimstone Natural Resource company is a company that I'm 50% ownership in, Westland Contracting I own, and it was a strategic move tax-wise, and so we transferred those back and forth due to some CPA advice and some legal advice to go back and forth, and they're now back in Brimstone Natural Resource Company. And so it was just a strategic move, business move. I'm a businessman, and I really don't know what that has to do with this, but that's where it is.
Okay, so we have got several cards here that all have the same question. And it's regarding everybody's businesses, and if you're elected as county commissioner, who's going to take care of the business, or if you're elected sheriff, who's gonna take care of your businesses? How will it affect your job working for the county versus being a citizen?
Okay, I'll jump on that one first, because I said I have 3 small businesses. I also have employees, and I have an office manager, and my employees run my business. If they have a question, they call me and ask me, hey, we got this or we got that, or somebody has a question for the owner. I probably spend, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours a week on my businesses, because the employees that I have put in place do such a phenomenal job, and I've delegated those responsibilities to them to do that job, which is what I would be doing in the sheriff's office as well.
In the interest of time, I'll go. I've been sheriff for 8 years. I don't have any other businesses. Believe me, there is no time for me to try and conduct any other business, and so I'll leave it at that.
How about you, John West?
Okay, so I have several businesses. I have a mining business that I have, gold mining business that I have put on hold for the last 3 years. And I'm gonna continue to put it on hold, even if I'm not elected as county commissioner, because I have a lot of other things on my plate. I have a development business, and I'm developing my last subdivision for this time, and it will be in place, and the lots will be sold to real estate, so that won't require much of my time at all. I have a snowcat business that's winter season only, and I have operators that run those snowcats, and so that does not hardly take any of my time. I have a firefighting business, which I have very great manpower, and the only amount of time that I would put to that would be possibly weekends in relieving one of those or those operators so they can have a day off during the fire season. Besides that, I'm going to give 100% of my time and effort to being your county commissioner and solving the problems of this county.
Brian?
So I work as a lighting consultant for Energy Trust of Oregon. I work from home most of the time, so I have a flexible schedule. Obviously, I'm also on the city council and the school board, and I'm a parent, so those things take a lot of my time. When I win the seat for county commissioner, I'm going to step away from the council. My school board term runs out in June, and I'm not going to run again for that. And I'm going to put my lighting consulting on hold as long as I'm county commissioner. So I'm going to put those 3 things aside to devote all of my time to being county commissioner. I will still continue to be a parent, but that won't interfere with my commissioner duties. But the problems that we face are so important that it's important for me to put all those other things aside so we can address those issues effectively.
Okay, we pulled a card out that we've been trying to figure out what's what. Sheriff, why didn't you quickly stop the rumor of Antifa coming in June 2020 rather than let the hundreds gather around for something that never happened?
Here's to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that, number one, okay, I didn't know that Antifa was coming. It was a rumor, right?
Yeah.
And if the people want to gather, that's kind of in the Constitution. So I'm certainly not going to stop that. So I didn't think that was, at the time, my role.
And we've had, like I said, we're going through these, and almost every single card we're pulling out is the same question. John West, what are you gonna do with your businesses if you're elected?
Got 5 here that ask the same,
Yeah,
basically the
same
same question in a
exact
roundabout way, but
question.
some
So
of it.
do I get 5 minutes to keep expanding on
Yeah,
that?
Some of it you just answered pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we would.
No, don't be us.
So you need to go through, I'll let you determine if we need to go through this. I have a couple minutes, are for all candidates. So here we go. In what way are you most different from your opponent? We can start on this end with John.
Wow. So how nice can I be and how nice can I not be? There's
Call it a minute.
there's a huge difference between me and Brian. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm not gonna get us in trouble. He's already spending taxpayer money being in the lawsuit with the school system. He's caused us issues on the city council. I'm telling you why. There's daylight to dark difference here. I'm a conservative Republican. I've been that way for 18 years. He has flip-flopped from being a Democrat to a non-affiliated voter 8 times. He doesn't know who he is. I know who I am, and I know who I represent.
Okay, Brian?
So I agree with John. We are very different. I have experience being effective in municipal government. He does not. With regards, I gotta follow up on the claim of my flip-flopping. I have been a Republican longer than I have been a member of any other party. And my second longest party is independent. My least longest party is Democrat. So people try to paint me as this crazy liberal Democrat when my party affiliation does not show that. But we're very different. I have a mind for public service. I have been working in public service for years, even working for Energy Trust of Oregon, which is a nonprofit. I got into that field because I want to help my community. I want to help people save money. I want to help businesses save money. So I've always had that mindset, the mindset of public service. So I think that that's a pretty stark difference between us.
I think the difference between my opponent and I really comes down to leadership management. I have 40 years of leadership and management experience between the Air Force, the Salvation Army, and the Sheriff's Office. Again, a large Sheriff's Office. Prior to taking office, Mr. Daniel was a Grants Pass City Patrolman who never promoted to a supervisor or a leadership position. I have 40 years of that, supervising hundreds of people at a time. My last appointment in the Sheriff's Office, I supervised 130 people assigned to my unit. When I was in the Salvation Army, the finance officer for the southern half of the state of California, I supervised every Salvation Army in the southern half of the state, write their budgets, supervise their budgets, audit their budgets, and make sure that they only spent the money on the stuff that it needed to be spent on. 97 cents of every dollar I give to the Salvation Army goes to help the people. As your sheriff, I'm gonna make sure your tax dollars get spent where they need to be spent and not on toys.
I've been 8 years as the sheriff. That's an invaluable experience to have. I've created local relationships with people here in law enforcement and in business and our community. I raised my kids here. I didn't grow up here, but when I moved here in 1995, it's been almost 28 years, basically, here in Josephine County. One of the other differences is I choose to always take the high road. 4 years ago was a very ugly campaign, one of the ugliest I've ever seen, and I never said a standing word about my opponent that I can recall, at any rate. I think I've built a team here that's different, that respects me, and became like the phoenix out of the fire. And that's a trait and a value to the office of sheriff that is extremely important. I keep going.
This one is for the commissioners. It's a two-part question. Applicants wishing to be employed by the county must undergo a background check before being offered a position. Currently, commissioner candidates are exempt from this process. First question, do you feel that all individuals seeking employment by the county, elected and non-elected alike, should be required to pass a background check?
I would say yes, I think they should. If it's legal to do so. I don't know if there's any conflict with an elected official having to jump through that hoop, but if it's not, then by all means, I have no problem with everybody that works for the county having a background check. I think that's a great idea.
I have no problem having a background check. You can fingerprint me, you can nose print me, you can do whatever you want. I'm good with it. I have nothing to hide.
All right, second part of the question is, if elected, would you agree to passing a background check before accepting your position as commissioner?
Sure. I don't know what passing a background check means, but I don't have any concerns with my background, and I know that my background is clean, so I would have no problem with that.
Same for me. I have no issues, and I'll do a blood test if you want one.
True Oregon.
All right, this one has a question for the sheriff and one for the commissioners. Sheriff, who is sales, okay, sorry, back up. Sheriff, who is for sales tax stuck outside of road? I don't know how this is. Okay, let's skip down. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out. All right, commissioners. Our Robinson repeal of ordinance allowing county officials all for crop that is reduced by 60%, why wouldn't you let the law of supply and demand work?
That is no question. I guess that's not you, was it?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the.
Give it one more time.
All right. Our Robinson repeal of ordinance allowing county officials all for crop that is reduced by 60%, comma, why wouldn't you let the law of supply and demand work? So I guess, would you allow the law of supply and demand work?
Supply and demand of what?
Of the marijuana crops. That's my reading of it. If the individual that wrote it would like to stand up and ask that question.
I would have never guessed that, Mark.
I think we should probably stay in the current forum and let's move on.
Right on those cards, okay? Art Robinson had a repeal of 105 ordinance that it hadn't passed. It would have allowed county officials to come on your property. And this is a question of private property rights. And the citizens voted no. They agreed with Art Robinson. So my question is, why don't we let the law of supply and demand work like it's working? Crops have been reduced 60%. The hysteria around the marijuana is over. Why wouldn't you let, instead of government getting involved in doing all this and continuing to do it, why wouldn't you just let the law of supply and demand work and be on with other things?
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Welcome.
So I was against 105. I am still against county government or government invading your personal property rights. I'm not for illegal grows or cartel grows and all that. And so the reason why I was against 105 is because it was not strictly going after the illegal grows and the cartel grows. It actually come after each and every citizen's personal property rights. And it is happening today, even though it has not passed. I deal with it on a daily basis with calls.
So, with regards to that ordinance, I'll be the first to admit that ordinance was not perfect. It was a stab at trying to solve the problem from the current commissioners and the sheriff, and I applaud them for making that effort. And it is not in effect, but I think that the problem still exists. Even though the demand is down on cannabis, there's still water rights issues, there's still environmental hazards, there's still human rights issues happening out in the county on some of these illegal grows. So I would like to look at the ordinance again, address the issues that people had with it, tighten up the language so those property rights are protected, so that there's not the concern of people or county employees coming on and overstepping their bounds, and putting it back out, because our code enforcement does need to have some teeth. We do need to have the ability to address some of the issues that are happening out in the county. And I've been hearing that from residents.
Let's have the sheriff's candidates answer that question too, if you don't mind.
Okay, I was not in favor of 105 because I felt that it violated your constitutional rights as a private property owner. So I did not support that. I, as these two gentlemen and the sheriff, am opposed to illegal grows and believe that we need to create the tools in our arsenal to deal with them. Most of those are in place with our task force and JMED and our statewide funding for those programs. But I do not believe that we should ever allow the county or a government institution to come onto your property to look and see if you by chance might be doing something wrong. So I was opposed to 105.
I think there was a bit of a misinformation campaign with 105, to be honest with you. And the misinformation is that there's this broad thought that we can just, county officials can just come on your property. And we can start a picnic with our families if we want to on your backyard. You can't do that. The Constitution protects you from that. The ordinance didn't allow for that, but that was widely spread. You have to have consent to get on a piece of property, or you have to have probable cause to get a warrant, either criminal or administrative. That's it. That's in place today. So if you were a property owner and somebody said, come on, I want to take a look at your property. No, I don't want you on here. Tax sand. If they don't have the probable cause and can't get a warrant, they're not coming back. So I think there was a bit of a misinformation on that, but I do understand the public's concern, because you do get down into some of the constitutional issues that are near and dear to my heart.
And so I'll take one of those 30-second rebuttals. As the sheriff said, all those mechanisms are in place. If they're in place, why do we try to pass a law that would allow them additional freedoms and access to your property?
I'll take one of them 30-second rebuttals too. So, Brian says water rights issue. Last year while Brian was on city council, he never once, not one time folks, said anything about the city of Grants Pass selling 17.8 million gallons of water to the dope growers. They made $300,000. He shut his trap. As long as they make money, he's good with it.
Brian?
Sure. It's rebuttal time, I guess, isn't it?
Next.
So, with regards to that, allowing grows to draw water from the city water source actually helps the issues with the water rights in the county, because there's less people drawing illegally out of the ground and out of the streams. So it's better in the county, and it just so happened to help my constituents in the city with having them the water rate cost. All those revenues went to basically the water department. So I was looking out for my constituents, and it also helped the water issues in the county.
Can I get another 30 seconds?
No, be next.
It's Dave Evans' rebuttal.
Yeah, it's really not a rebuttal. I think that ordinance was just as much, if not mostly, about citation authority and the ability to hold the bad actors accountable. That's really what I saw was the really win-win for that ordinance. Sure, no ordinance is going to be absolutely perfect, but I don't think the Constitution, your constitutional rights were going to be violated. I really think it was more pointed towards holding the bad actors accountable. And believe me, they're not. a lot of them right now. With House Bill 3000 will hopefully fix that, and maybe somewhere down the road we can get some citation authority for the bad actors.
So Brian talks about it was great to sell 17.8 million gallons of city water because it helped his constituents in the city limits, while all of us in the county had to deal with the illegal grows next to our homes and the cartels because he was funding it through city water, helping his constituents inside the city make money, but us in the county had to pay the price. So who does he represent? The city of Grants Pass, not the county.
Okay, moving on.
All right, next question. Brian, you say you're a U.S. veteran. Explain your Air Force experience.
Yep, I would be happy to. After I graduated high school, I was appointed to the U.S. Air Force Academy. I went to the academy just 3 weeks after graduation, went through basic training, spent 2 years at the academy, and then when you hit the 2-year mark, you have a choice to make. You can either leave at that point with no penalty, or you can stay and have a 7+ year commitment to the Air Force. So at that point, 19-year-old Brian decided that he wasn't ready for any kind of 7-year commitment to anything. So I decided to transfer to University of Oregon. I finished up my degree there. I was discharged honorably from the academy, and my service, according to the Department of Defense, does count towards veteran status, and I am a veteran.
Okay. For John West, your history of gating off popular Forest Service trails, forest roads, and a county road is concerning. Is this how you plan to govern as county commissioner?
So I believe that, and I told the ranger this while I was on fire duty this year at Illinois Valley. He said he was going to gate off the road to Bowlin Lake. And I said, if I become commissioner, I said, you're gonna have to show me the congressional act that gives you the authority to gate off the public from being able to go into Bowlin Lake. And I know the federal code, so he is wrong. The gates that people are talking about are on my private property and to my private property. And if the public feels that I do not have the right to put a gate on my public property, on my personal property, they're wrong. You have the right to gate your private property off just like I do. I will never gate off public land. I will fight for you to keep our public roads open.
All right, so this actually could be for all four. We'll start with Sheriff since we were just with Commissioner. First part is explain budgeting for outcomes.
Budgeting for outcomes?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. That's really, actually, you're right, man. It is a good question. You have to work within your budget to create those outcomes. Certainly, you'd like all the money in the world, but you could just take it over, but it doesn't work that way. You budget and you focus on where you want to put your money that is really most important to the citizenry in Josephine County. And you gain the outcomes that people want to see the most. So you prioritize. And that's really it's really it. It's kind of simple, to be honest with you.
And that's what budgeting for outcomes is. With my town hall meetings, I'm gonna ask you, what do you want from your sheriff's office? That determines the outcome. The outcome is 24/7 patrol. The outcome is no patrol. The outcome is whatever you want. Then we determine exactly what does it cost to provide you that. And we look at our available dollars and how we have to budget those dollars to provide that service. And can we provide the service you want for the dollars that are available? If we can't, we have to figure out, asking these guys to do their job and find us the money to give you the outcome that you want. And so we budget for your outcome. And we don't spend money on things that don't fulfill the outcome.
So I think they both did a pretty good job of explaining what budgeting for outcomes is. Part of budgeting for outcomes that's very important is making sure that you have enough money for the outcomes that you want to get. When I got on city council last year, we inherited a $2 million budget shortfall that was left to us from the previous council because they over budgeted for outcomes. They over budgeted beyond the means of the city, and we had to do a cost cutting exercise. Essentially, we had to cut the fat at the city to bring the budget back into balance. The same thing's happening in the county right now. The commissioners have spent down all the reserves, all the contingency, trying to prop up the sheriff's department, and I understand and I empathize with the sheriff, but the commissioners' budgeting activities have put the county in a very disadvantageous position. So they've gotten the outcomes, but now we're in a position where we don't have any money and we don't have any reserves. So you have to do long-term planning when you're budgeting for outcomes too.
So our budgeting process is, I don't even know if they have a budgeting process because I can't wrap my head around what's going on in there. I've never seen the likes of it. But all I know is we need to prioritize what we need and what we want. And we first take care of what we need. And we don't get what we want until we take care of what we need. And so if there's extra money left over, we'll see how it goes. But the problem is we don't have a rainy day fund. We don't set money aside. Our government is like drunken sailors. No pundits to anybody in military, but I'm just saying that's a phrase that's used. They don't know how to save 50 cents in there. And we've got to get a handle on this. $198 million budget, and we can't fund our sheriff's department? Come on, something is wrong here. We're not stupid people here. Every one of you are smart enough to know we can cut and save money in every single department, but we have to be willing to do it.
I'm going to rebut that. So every year, every municipal government has a budget committee and a budget hearings. So those are open to the public. Anyone can come, anyone can listen in and even comment on those hearings. So if anyone wants to be aware of what's happening with the budget, they should go. With regards to the $198 million budget, over 85% of those dollars are dedicated funds. So while it sounds like a big number, they can only be used for certain things. Like for the city, the water treatment plant funds, it's a enterprise fund. You can't move that money around. They have to stick in the certain departments. With regards to cutting the fat at the county, I will give them a little bit of credit. They have looked at every cost-cutting measure, just about every cost-cutting measure they could come up with at the county already. And the sheriff needs $7 to $10 million a year. There's not $7 to $10 million a year to cut. So we're going to need a new revenue source.
Can I rebut that? So that sounds like a typical politician talking. So 85% we can't touch. That's garbage. I am so sick and tired of hearing about that garbage. We can contract Public Works, the Parks Department, and the Timber Department, and we can fund deputies from those departments through a contract and use that money of the 85% to help fund that. It is a legal entity. I have ran it through legal counsel, and it can be done. The commissioners don't want to do it because, lo and behold, you have department heads, oh, don't touch my money. It's not your money, people. You work for us. It's our tax-paying money. Our obligation is to make sure this sheriff is funded first and that we are a safe community. It's time we wake up.
So I'd just like to remind everybody about personal attacks. We need to be fair and friendly here. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead.
I don't know if I can be fair and friendly, but
Yeah, you can.
our departments present budgets. Budgets are approved by the commissioners. Dan DeYoung, in the paper this week, said that if we don't approve the sales tax, it's like defunding the police. And we've been told that if the sales tax doesn't pass, our sheriff's office is going to be broke on June 30th. We had a budget. Dan DeYoung and Sheriff Daniels spent the reserves and the contingencies down to zero. If they hadn't done that, on June 30th, we would have had several million in the contingency and we wouldn't have to lay off our deputies.
Silence?
You don't have to.
Yeah, you know, that sounds nice, but you wanna go, I got a car to sell you guys. And it's a really nice car, you believe me? Okay, you can't see it, you can't drive it, you don't know if you can put gas in it or support it, you don't know if it runs, well, I'll sell it to you. So Josephine County needed something, we needed a boost. 5 years ago, we got a little boost. We took those contingency funds and we expanded them a little bit. And we added some FTEs, full-time equivalents, to try and show the county that we can work. We are a good organization, and we can provide the most professional public safety service possible. Without that, do we just keep kicking the can down the road and saying, oh, you know, we're just gonna keep being that lackluster organization that doesn't provide a service to the public? Look at what we've done, okay? It's important. You can feel it. You can taste it. Now support it. That's where we're at.
And you have a beautiful new car with no gas to put in it.
All right, next question. We start with the Sheriff's Office in John. What changes would you make for organizational effectiveness? Let me reread that. What changes would you make for organizational effectiveness?
You know, it's not a bad question, and I think that's important as a businessman or somebody in my position to consistently and continually reevaluate what's working and what's not working, and what's better for our county. Really, right now, to be honest with you, we're kind of at bare bones. 18 people had to remove the detectives division for now. So we continually reorganize. Unfortunately, historically, it's been in the down. For me, after 2017-ish, 16, 17, it was actually reorganizing to get better. And so I've seen it both ways. I like the upswing more than the downswing.
The problem with building up with no future of funding is that you hire a lot of supervisors and staff that you can't afford. You've got, I think what I've heard the sheriff say several times is he's got a detective and a detective sergeant. Kind of too many people working for one supervisor? Or is it the other way around? You've got 2 animal control and 1 supervisor. We have more supervisors now than we have people working the streets. When Gil Gilbertson left, he had gotten rid of all of his supervisors, his undersheriffs and his lieutenants and stuff, to try to save money. That's the reorganization we need. Yes, we need supervisors. Somebody's got to manage our staff. But we have far too many supervisors and not enough worker bees. And we need worker bees to patrol 24/7.
Yeah, just a rebuttal. Our supervisors are worker bees. I just told you today that I was out in the field at a marijuana grow, taking down plants and whatnot. 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants for a shift of between 3 to 5 men and women. Detective sergeant oversees JMED, is what they oversee. We are at bare bones. I mean, that's the bottom line. My jail has 1 operations or corrections lieutenant and 1 sergeant, and then 4 corporals for 4 shifts.
As a patrol sergeant in Maricopa
We're there.
County, I had 12 guys that I supervised on a shift, and I didn't have to answer to a lieutenant.
That's great. See, that's what I totally understand that, but that's also not an industry standard.
All right, we'll stick with the sheriffs. This is actually directed at Dave, but you kind of touched on it already, I believe, but I'll ask it again here. What is your background experience in budgeting that would qualify you to keep the sheriff's budget in the positive without bankrupting it like has happened during the last 4 years?
Good question.
So my budgeting experience, and I think I mentioned it, is I was a finance officer for the southern half of the state of California. So every unit had its own budget, and we budgeted for outcomes. what do we need to provide in that community and what can we do to raise the money for that? And we didn't spend money that we didn't have, and we didn't leverage ourselves and borrow money to show you what we could do if we had more money. So when I take office in January, if the commissioners tell me that I have $2 million or $4 million or $9 million, I will sit down and I will figure out what services I can provide for that money and then eliminate whatever we're doing that doesn't fit within that budget.
Yeah, and it is budgeting for outcomes. It's just really a choice of what outcome you're looking for. I'm asked every year to provide a budget. That budget goes to the finance director. That budget then goes through the budgeting process of 3 commissioners and 3 volunteers basically that are on the budgeting panel. So I really, to a certain extent, don't get a say what my budget is. That has to be approved by those on the committee, and that's what happened over the last 8 years.
And I gotta rebuttal that. You, department head, better have a say. You decide whether you're gonna have patrol, or whether you're gonna have civil, or whether you're gonna have canine, or whether you're gonna have detectives, and all those things cost money. And you decide how much money you're gonna spend on those things, and you write the budget, and that's what you present. And then you go to the county commissioners and you fight for it. 6 years ago, we approved the jail levy. And we were promised if the jail levy passes that there would be $2.5 million already set aside for the sheriff's office. And that's not happening. And you need a sheriff that holds up the article where they promised us that money and say, right here you said if we voted yes, you were gonna give us $2.5 million. I wanna see that money in my budget. And that's not happening.
All right, so moving on.
No comments?
Commissioners, do you have any plans or solutions to the homelessness problem in our county?
Sure, I'll take that one.
All right.
So the homelessness problem in the county, it's countywide. It's in Grants Pass, it's in Cave Junction, it's in the outlying areas, it's all over the place. People are sleeping in the parks, people are sleeping in their cars, people are sleeping in the woods, presenting an increased fire risk. So I think we can all agree that it's a huge problem that needs to be addressed in some way. It's something that we can't ignore. In the city, we've been trying to open up a shelter to help get them out of the parks. They're working on the same thing in the city of Cave Junction right now. In the city, it's a more unique problem because we have a federal injunction that doesn't allow us to remove them from the parks. So it's a little bit unique compared to the county. I think as it relates to the county, the problem is more with vehicles and people camping in the woods. So if the county can work with the 2 municipalities in the county to provide a location for vehicles, like a low-cost car camping place, so they're not dispersed out in the woods starting fires. Nothing nice, just a place where maybe it's $5 and they can park their car there, and it's safe. It keeps them safe. It keeps us safe. And then it allows them to access case management services so they can hopefully improve their situation and start to work their way out of homelessness. But the current commissioners have just been ignoring the problem. They haven't, I think their idea was to put the homeless at the dump, which is on one hand funny, but on the other hand very insulting. So they're not addressing this very serious problem in a serious way.
So the homeless problem is a real problem. Most of our county is owned by BLM and Forest Service. We have no jurisdiction over government ground. Dave's not gonna go out there and tell the federal government, you need to remove those people off of that government ground. Maybe he can, I don't know, but I just don't think he's gonna get very far with that. We are definitely not gonna be able to do it. We can preach at them and yell at them, but they're not gonna listen to us. So we have the middle ground that is the private ground inside the county. I don't believe the commissioners is laying a blind eye. I believe that our biggest problem with the homeless is inside the city. And it's this pathetic city council that tries to tell you they're doing stuff, but they're not doing anything. They have ground into G Street. They have ground that's been proposed that all they have to do is supply the ground that they have. I've offered to clear it for free, no cost to the city. But no, they don't want to actually fix this problem, because if they move those people to the facility inside the city limits on city-owned ground, doesn't cost the taxpayers any money, then they can clean out the park problem. But no, they don't want to do that, because they have an alternative motive. Just like when he voted to give All Care $1 million with no strings attached. They don't even have to give the money back. If they don't build a homeless shelter, they get to keep the $1 million of money. He voted not to put strings attached to it. This is why we're not getting the homeless fixed, because this city council has no clue. We have ways of fixing it. They can talk about this court order. They want to bring it now. Today, what I hear is, oh, we don't have enough water to supply in the homeless camp for the homeless people. They have one excuse after another. That's all this city council is excuses when it comes to the homeless.
Sounds like a good time for a rebuttal. So there was a lot to unpack in that statement. One of the things I didn't hear was something that John's actually proposing to solve the problem.
It's called get rid of the city council.
All right. So if you ask my counterparts on city council who has been taking the lead on trying to solve this problem, I guarantee just about every single one of them is going to say it's me. I've been the spearhead, and I hate to say this, but there have been other counselors that have not been on board with solving this problem. I have not been one of those counselors. I've been the one pushing, I've been the one trying to get this solved, but there's 8 of us. And unfortunately, we've had a problem coming to a majority on how to solve this problem. But it's not because of me, it's not because of how I voted. And he was wrong when he said the All Care grant had no strings. It was a 12-page contract. It had all kinds of ways for us to control what was going to happen with that money. The one thing that I didn't want in that contract was a no-cause elimination of the contract. I didn't want the city to be able to terminate the contract with no cause. I didn't feel like that was fair to All Care. It didn't put them in a position to be successful. So that part is true. But the contract had plenty of other ways for a cause termination to happen.
So 30-second rebuttal. They just recently had a vote, and it was 7-1 on the homeless. The one vote against the homeless, right here, Brian D. LaGrange. And the reason why he didn't like it was because they wanted to put a ending time limit on this homeless shelter camp, whatever this thing they were doing. So he votes no, because he wants to make it where it lasts forever. And so if the homeless thing goes away, he wants to make it where it's still in place, even if it don't exist.
So with all due respect, that is not true. That is not what happened. We voted for a 2-month funding period, and the reason I voted against it was because there was the no-cause termination in the contract. Again, that was why.
All right, next
We're
question.
moving on.
Next question. Back to the sheriff.
I don't know, it's sure been nice over here.
You should try it on my end. I've never felt so left out in my life. This is fascinating. All I'm thinking about is how the state government can help you out and get out of your way.
Just across the aisle thing.
All right. What is Plan B if the sales tax fails?
We're less than a month away to figure out if this thing passes scales. I'm not going to quit. I mean, again, like John Candidate West said, it's really not my job to go out and seek out funds and figure out how to fix this. But I do believe it's my obligation to the citizens to at least participate and try and help. And so Plan B very well could be a taxing district. It could be a taxing levy, a property levy. It could be just a number of things. And there are, Candidate LaGrange said a few things that were possibilities. Not enough to sustain us, but at least maybe buy some time and get us over the hump. I think there's also going to be possibly some federal opportunities that we can apply for that might buy time for us, I'm hopeful down the road. And we think we may have identified some, but we'll see. Who knows what the federal government is, what I'm trying to say. You never know what they're gonna do.
So some of my experiences with nonprofits and stuff is, of course, grant writing and fundraising. So you can get grants and you can do fundraising. Are they going to generate the 7 million, the 9 million that we need? Absolutely not. But if I can raise $500,000 with the plans and the small things that I've proposed, that's $500,000 that they don't have to find, and it keeps 4 or 5 deputies on the street. So I don't have the plan out of the box when the sales tax fails, but we'll have the community meetings and we'll talk about what options we can do. That sales tax is unfair to you as a unincorporated citizen, because the city gets their portion, Cave Junction gets their portion, and then the county, not the sheriff's office, the county gets the third portion. And the county's gonna take some of that money and they're gonna give it to the DA, and they're gonna take some of that money and they're gonna give it to juvenile justice. And of course, they've got their 7% contingency fund that they're gonna pull out, and the admin for the tax people and all that. And by the time it's all said and done, the sheriff's gonna be lucky if he walks away with $1 million. That sales tax is not gonna generate enough money to save the sheriff's office. So we have to start thinking of other ideas. And I'm offended that we've waited 4 years with no great proposal on the table until an election year, and then we say to the citizens, if you don't vote for the sales tax, we're gonna lay off all of our deputies. We should have been proposing a levy, a district tax, something, and insisted that it be on last November's ballot, so that we had a year. Even if the sales tax passes, we collect that in 2023, it doesn't get turned over to the county until March of 2024. So even if it passes, we don't have the money for a budget, and we still have to lay off all of our people because they spent money they shouldn't have spent.
Short, very short rebuttal. It's really not even hardly a rebuttal, but last November there was the corrections levy went back on. It was the renewal. So it's really pretty tough to put, 2 money measures, tax measures for property tax, if that was what it would turn out to be on the ballot. Too many eggs in one basket, too many chickens on one egg, I guess. And so again, those aren't decisions. Some of those money decisions aren't decisions that I make. They're decisions that the county makes as far as budgetarily. I do get to set up where those monies go to a certain extent, but I get the yay or nay as well.
So, Mr. Knapp was right. Things are going to get worse at the Sheriff's Department before they get better, because there is going to be a funding gap. Even if the sales tax passes, there's going to be a gap. So we're going to have issues for a while no matter what happens. If it fails, I'm pretty sure it's going to fail. Our options are pretty limited. We have some little things we can do to supplement funding, but we need a big chunk. The sheriff needs $7 to $9 million a year to have 24-hour patrol division in the county. You can't get that with cutting from the Parks Department or doing these little things. Those will help a little bit, but you still need a big chunk. And so we're looking at a law enforcement district, or we're looking at a levy. And honestly, a levy is not a good option for our most vital public service. We don't want to be coming back and having to do all this work every 3 or 4 years to fund the sheriff, and then you know how the votes go in the county. A lot of times these things fail, and then we're in this cycle of the sheriff not having any stability. So that contributes to the issues we have. So a district would keep him stable, and it would only work out to be about $1 a day per household for the sheriff. So when you look at it, and that's not per person, that's per household. So $1 per household per day for the sheriff to have permanent funding sounds perfectly reasonable to me.
So that's typical talk for taxes is the answer for everything. People has not got to hear and understand exactly what I'm saying. Parks Department has $800,000 sitting in their account. If we take $220,000 of it, we get close to 2 deputies. If we take $220,000 out of the timber department, every single year we do this, there's 2 more deputies. There's 4 deputies. If we take and pay for 6 deputies out of Public Works, every single year. Now we're at 10 deputies. This is permanent. This is built in the budget every single year. We take the $1.5 million that we are sending out of this county. How many more deputies is that? We're up to 15 deputies. That's permanent. Or we can ask you guys to open your wallets. Inflation went up 4% this month. A 7% interest rate on a 30-year house, $500,000, $2,000 a month, $2,000 a month. As of today, for that same interest rate, 30 years, you can only buy a $350,000 house. They're going to raise interest rates another 3/4 of a point. You're going to be down to a $300,000 house. But we want to raise your taxes. We don't want to do the hard things in government. Well, we need to do it. We can fund this sheriff's office. We can give him permanent funding. I don't know if I can come up with 7 or 9 million because I can't get a straight answer on exactly what the number is. But I can get you close enough that if we get close enough and show you that the county government has done their job, and I have to come to you and say, we need 5 more deputies, and it costs 30 cents a thousand. I bet most of you will say, geez, John, you guys did a good job. You did your job. We'll give you that 30 cents a thousand for permanent funding for the sheriff's office. That's what we need to do, folks.
So I'm gonna rebut that. What John's talking about is cannibalizing the other county departments that are already running lean. I've worked in the county department. I know it's running lean. I know all the departments are running lean. Public Works, they have a schedule for maintaining the roads. They're already behind on that schedule, so they're already not keeping up with the standards that things should be kept up at. So if you're gonna take money from all the other departments, those departments are not gonna be able to function effectively. We have the lowest property tax rate in the state at 59 cents. It's 1/3 of the average property tax rate in the state. That's why we can't fund the sheriff. We can't fund the sheriff because the average is $1.80, so every other county can fund their sheriff. We have 59 cents. Everyone, that's why we can't fund the sheriff, that we simply don't have enough money to run all the departments. I don't wanna raise taxes either, but at some point we gotta be real.
Rebuttal real quick. $6 million in Public Works in their slush account. They said $3 million of it they want to spend, but they have 3 other $1 million sitting in there. This is what I'm being told. 800,000 sitting in our parks. The sheriff over here has to patrol our parks. He has to keep us safe in our county parks. So why shouldn't those parks help pay for those deputies? If you all have that much money, hey, make my job easy. Elect me. I'll sit on my fanny in there and do nothing, and you just pay the bills if that's what you want. But if you want somebody to do the hardcore and get down to the brass tacks, this is the guy. Here's the tax and spend guy right here.
So while we're on this topic, this will kind of go along with what we just talked about. If you cut Public Works, who will fix the roads?
I'll take that right out of the gate. $18 million budget. We're only talking about a couple $1 million that we slide over to the sheriff to help him out. We get that through gas tax, road tax, and we can use that money through contractual obligations. My priority is to fund the sheriff first and keep our county safe. My second priority is to make sure our roads are safe to travel on. We're going to accomplish both of those. It doesn't matter if we take some money from Public Works. Do you realize that the county borrowed money from Public Works this year for the sheriff? They borrowed money.
Time.
So, with regards to the road tax and the gas tax and the Public Works Department, those are dedicated funds. You just can't move those around. And the reason that the current commissioners took a loan from Public Works is because you can't take it. So you can take a loan, but you have to pay it back. So the current commissioners have already looked at these options, and this is not a real solution.
Question for commissioners. How will you stop the mining in residential areas if someone proposes to mine there?
How do we stop the mining in residential areas?
Correct.
Mining of why?
Minerals?
Minerals, I'm assuming, mining, yeah.
So, well, I don't even know how to answer that question for the simple fact that I mean, I don't know if somebody's gonna drill for oil. It's all a permitting process, whether it's through Dogami for, mining for minerals or oil. I don't even know who you go through for that, but I can guarantee you that there is state and county permits that required for mining, so no one's gonna mine inside of a residential area unless they get permits, and if they get permits through the state and county, I don't know what you want us to do about it, because they'll be permitted to do what they're trying to do.
Yeah, so I don't claim to know a lot about mining, but I do know that there are organizations in the county that are trying to expand mining, specifically up in the North County area, a company called American Mineral Research. And I know that they're lobbying the commissioners to ease restrictions to allow more mining in that area, in the Coyote Creek watershed and the Wolf Creek watershed. I don't support that. I don't support mining operations that are going to make money for a select few and then degrade the water supply for everybody else.
Okay. Last question here, this I guess would be directed to the, to Brian. Republic Waste gets 38% of their take from what the city charges for trash services. City of Grants Pass gets the remaining amount. Why is the city council wanting to raise the price of trash services?
As I understand it, the city does not control the price of trash services. Every year, Republic approaches the city with a proposed rate increase, and the city council either approves or denies it. So it's similar to like Pacific Power. If they want to raise their rates, they have to go to the Oregon Public Utilities Commission to get approval for a rate increase. So the same thing happens with Republic Services in the city. They come to the city to get a rate increase approved, and we did approve the last rate increase, and I think part of that was due to the cost increases and the inflation increases that we all know about. So that's really all I have to say on that.
You want me to comment on
No,
that?
I mean, if you want.
Well, I mean, he just said that the city council voted to rate increase, and I think that's what the question was about, was rate increase. So there it is. Let's raise more either fees or taxes. I mean, that's all I've heard out of him.
So there were 5 questions that were all about Mr. West's businesses, but I believe that was answered earlier in the one question that we asked. So if everybody's happy with that outcome? If not, we can ask another question. We have 25 more minutes, so.
No questions on 5?
I got a question.
Kind of surprised.
I have a question.
Can I listen to your question?
Well, it's
You
regarding.
only get 60 seconds to ask the question, Mark.
The economy and taxes.
Okay,
Can I ask that
60
question?
seconds.
Huh?
60 seconds.
Yes, sure.
All right,
Okay.
Mark Sullivan.
What I appreciate all you hear and saying what you say about taxes and regulations and all that, but I haven't heard, John almost touched on it, but nobody else did. Josephine County, true, has one of the lowest tax rates in the state, for a real good reason. We also have the poorest county. I don't hear anybody up there, maybe John a little, being on the side of the person in this county who is poverty line. Every single one of you leaves the opening for a tax. These people who are below the poverty line, I wonder how any of you can represent them, because I haven't heard anything. We are one of the poorest counties in the state. What are you going to do about the people that can't pay your tax, can't afford your regulation, and to just make them more homeless? What are you going to do for them to make their life easier rather than bad government? Please tell me.
I'll take that first. I'm against the 3.5% sales tax. for the simple fact that we have families that are busting their fanny out here that has kids. But then their school clothes, their school supplies are gonna go up 3%. And then I went and talked to Fred Meyer, Winco, Diamond Home Improvement Center. They said it's not gonna raise the cost of goods 3%, it's gonna raise the cost of goods 5 to 6%. One is because they can raise, and you won't know that they raise it more than 3%. And two is the 5% money that the county says they get for administration costs, they said is not enough. So then it goes to property taxes. I'm against raising property taxes on our elderly people who are barely making it on Social Security. Mark's right. We're not an overly rich county. We have people that has money, but it's not fair to push the people out that don't have money. And that's why I'm trying to go a different direction. Instead of taxing you people to death, because inflation's already eaten you up from your food costs, from your fuel costs, to every cost you got. And I think it's time we look, instead of going to you first and saying, give, 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 government does their job first.
You're done.
I'm done.
So, talking about going to the people first with the tax, we're not going to the people first. The current commissioners, for all their faults, they have been trying to cut costs and to figure out innovative ways to fund the sheriff. So this is not out of the gate we're asking for a tax. This is, they've spent down all the reserves, they've looked at all the options, and we're getting down to the point where the sheriff has already laid off a third of his patrol, and by June, he's gonna be laying off the rest of his patrol. This is not a joke. This is the point where, you know, we have the lowest tax in the state. It's a third of the average. That's why we don't have a sheriff. And I understand that we have a lot of poor people in our county. Every county has poor people. We're talking about $1 a day per property to fund the sheriff. That is not an unreasonable amount of money to fund law enforcement. I want to fund law enforcement without cannibalizing the other departments, because the other departments need to be effective too. But $1 a day for the sheriff is not an unreasonable amount to ask.
And I think to address Mark, you know, I've said that I am not against a tax. I just haven't seen one that I like yet, because too many people are affected and hurt by it. This particular 3% one, with inflation up 4%, is a 7% hit on them. It's supposed to generate $18 million. So I'm the math guy, I'm the finance guy. $18 million is 3% of $600 million. So the county commissioners and the sheriff want you to believe that our businesses generate $100 million in taxable revenue every 30 days. That's the only way we'll get anywhere near the $18 million. We don't do that, but we're gonna tax our low incomes, our seniors, on a pipe dream to solve the law enforcement problem. And the sales tax is not gonna do it. We have to find other funding streams, and that's what I've been talking about all along, is all of the other small ideas. We'll have to have a big dollar, we'll have to have a tax, but we have to find the one that will work.
You know, Mark, you raised a good point this time. We are, I'll sign that for you if you want later on, but anyway, we're a democracy. We have low income, and we have some substantial wealth in this community. The low income, maybe they are not interested in the sales tax, seasonal sales tax. The high income, I don't know, maybe they don't want to spend an extra 3%. Maybe they're just frugal. But what they both are is in a democracy, and they have a choice.
What about the seniors? I haven't heard anybody.
Mark, don't
Mark.
The point is they all have a chance to vote. And if the low income and the high income and the seniors, whatever the case is, that's why we're a democracy. That's why there's actually something out right now, a concept. Maybe not a good one. Maybe people don't support it. Okay, but they get a vote. And then if that doesn't work out, then we move on and we keep fighting.
This young lady has a question, then after you guys answer that, we're gonna give you guys 3-minute closing, including you.
Yay.
Yay!
Lost
You've been
my
so
voice
good.
over there. No, it's very good listener.
This is a question for Mr. West. The only example that we have of your self-proclaimed fiscal responsibility is spending $46,000 in our primary election in an 8-way race. Can you outline how the community can trust your self-proclaimed fiscal responsibility with this one example?
So, I have 2 businesses that I started with $500 and they're multi-million-dollar businesses because I didn't have the taxpayer money to waste. I didn't have government money to waste. I had to take and work and take every dollar and every penny and make it count. And I had to make it build. And I had to work in 14 and 16-hour days, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. And so as I built these businesses, just because I built them up into good businesses don't mean that I lived a ravish lifestyle. I'm wearing $11 Dickie t-shirt, and it's not because I'm cheap. It's just because my priority is not to try to be better than you or anyone else. It is that when I was young, I spent more than I made. And I learned that we have to do better than that. And I was raised better than that. And so I have learned that I have to be fiscally responsible with the money God has given me and the money that this county has allowed me to make. And so by employing people and spending money in this county, that is what I am bringing as my fiscal responsibility. I don't know how far else to explain it to you than that. It's just that I wasn't born with money. My dad was a sawmill worker. We had food and clothes, and Dad took care of us, but that's all we had. And I've been able to do better than that because I got an education, a forestry degree, and I've been able to be fiscally smart with what I've done, and I want to bring that and do the same thing with your money and represent you.
Okay.
Can I have a chance to answer the question about fiscal conservancy?
It was represented to me.
It was. All right. I guess I'll save that for the next forum.
Now we're gonna have, each person gets a 3-minute closing statement, so you can mention it there.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Who do y'all want to go first?
You spoke up.
I'm sorry.
I didn't learn anything in this world, I tell you. Yeah, I would set a timer here, so I kind of have an idea where I'm at. First of all, it's absolutely an honor to be your sheriff. It's been so fun, coming out of the flames and getting an organization back on its feet and up and running. I think I'm trustworthy. I think I'm honest. I think I have good moral integrity. I created the motto of protecting with courage and serving with compassion. The team we built has that, and they're in it to win. They're in it to win it, and they're in it for you, and I think for all the right reasons. I think you can feel the improvement within the county, and we don't have to stop. We don't have to go back to 2012. Okay, maybe the seasonal sales tax doesn't work. Maybe it's not the right move, but it doesn't mean that we can't at least try something. Most importantly, I have to put this out that the citizens of Grants Pass and Cave Junction and our rural Josephine County deserve more. We deserve 24/7 patrols. When we look at this problem, oftentimes you look within and you look at my situation, individual situation. Let's take just a second and think about the kids, and Mark mentioned the elderly. Think about those that need us and are our future and the next generation. I think about them. I think about it daily. And it's because everybody in the county matters deeply, I guess, in nowadays terms. I've been your sheriff for 8 years, almost 8 years. I've worked in Josephine County for 28 minus 3 years. And I've worked for city, county, and state. I was boots on the ground, and I chose to take your fly back. It's buzzing. That's been buzzing us all night long. I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy. I'm a cop's cop with an education, and I think there's value in that and merit to our citizens, because that's really kind of who a lot of our citizens are, boots on the ground kind of people. So, in less than a month, I would love your support to continue the fight, because it is a daily fight, and I'm not afraid, and neither are people. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
When I filed the run last November, the Daily Courier contacted Mr. Daniel and asked him if he was going to run again. He said, I haven't decided if I'm going to run or not. They said, well, what if Mr. Knapp runs? And they said, well, if Mr. Knapp runs, I'll run because I don't want him to be sheriff. That was his commitment level to wanting to be sheriff. For 4 years, you've seen his proven fiscal irresponsibility, his poor fiscal management. He has spent down your money, and now we're being told by everybody in the county administration that there is no money, and we're going to have to lay everybody off. How can you even consider rewarding somebody that spends all the money and puts you in a position that is going to be worse than it was in 2012? We haven't had community outreach from the sheriff's office, no town hall meetings, no community gatherings, those things that I say that I'm going to do on a regular basis so you can meet with your sheriff and tell him what you want and what you expect and hold my feet to the fire. The sheriff says what he needs to say to get your votes, and he recently spoke at the Democrat Party, and he said what he needed to say to get their endorsement. And then he says other things when he goes to other debates. I begin to wonder sometimes if what he is saying is accurate or inaccurate, and I have to chase it down. In Cave Junction, he told them he is not a member of the Sheriff's Association, and he doesn't believe that belonging in those forums is important. Now today he says he is. He's a cop's cop. I'm a sheriff's sheriff. There's a big difference. A cop patrols the city streets, a sheriff patrols a rural county. I am your sheriff, and I'm your best hope for improving your sheriff's office. So I'm going to ask you to vote for me in November.
Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I'll just touch really quick on the fiscal conservative piece. There's something to be said about having an efficient government. An efficient government is not cannibalizing all the other departments to fix the problem. I have experience being efficient, working in energy efficiency for almost 2 decades. I know all about how to make things efficient. I've worked on the school board budget, I've worked on the city budget. I'm the one that asks the most questions in either of those governing bodies about the budget. I know the county budget. I'm a budget hawk. I'm the one that is harassing staff about why is this here? Why are we asking for that much money there? So I have experience with the budget. The county budget is in shambles. I have the experience to help fix the budget. I have ideas to fix the budget. I have plans to fix the budget. That's the big problem with the county. There's other problems too, but the imminent problem is the budgeting issue. I was born in Grants Pass. I raised my daughter here. I love Josephine County. I love our community, and we have some big problems that need to be solved. I have experience being successful in municipal government. My constituents are happy with me, regardless of this sham recall the Republican Party is trying to put on about me. The commissioner's seat is a nonpartisan seat, and it has become partisan. it should not be partisan. What's best for the county does not translate from the party to the community. There's things in the community that need to be solved regardless of what any party thinks. I'm not affiliated with any party, regardless of who wants to support me. I want to do what's best for the citizens of Josephine County. And I don't hear any solutions from my opponent. I hear a lot of complaints about me, a lot of half-truths and lies about me, but I don't hear any real solutions on how to solve problems here in the county. So I have experience, my constituents are happy with me. I will not be recalled. The last recall failed, this recall is going to fail too. So I encourage you to vote for me because I will solve the problems that we face as a county. Thank you.
You know, folks, I don't even know where to go after that, but all I can say is I'm a proven small business owner. I'm one of you. All I want to do is work for you and serve you. I'm not here to move up the ladder. I'm not here to put stars on my forehead. I am here to work and serve you. I am here to make sure that every dollar this county has is spent wisely and correctly. And if you believe that out of a $198 million budget, there is no money to be used anywhere else, then I guess you should be running for county commissioner because you're way smarter than I am. Because no one believes in their right mind that county government or federal government or state government does not waste money. I have not been told that by whether you're a Democrat, an independent, a libertarian, or a Republican. Everybody believes that there is wasteful spending in all government. We're gonna get to the bottom of it. Now, am I gonna step on some toes? Yes. Is that a bad thing? No. Have I had my toes stepped on? Yes. Did it hurt me? No. It made me the person I am today. It made me be stronger, wiser, and smarter. And that's what we need. We're lacking that. Our commissioner office is a joke. People don't trust it anymore. People don't believe the commissioners. We need to build the trust. This is our office. We have 3 people that's supposed to represent us in the county. They're not our dictators. They're not our God. They represent us. And they are to listen to us and to do what's best, but do the will of the people as best they can. That hasn't been happening. I want to bring new life to it. I'm not even going to go where he went. I can't even top that one. But I'm just telling you, folks, we need change, and we need to do it now. We've already kicked the can down the road on the sheriff, and it's not his fault. I'm not going to blame him. I'm going to blame the commissioner's office. I was asked by the newspaper to give the commissioner's office a rating. I was generous and gave him a C because I thought that was being nice. Because we can do better than that, people. You have to decide what you want. Do you want the same old thing? Do you want the same promises from other politicians? We have 2 city councilmen on there now. They kicked the can down the road and left our sheriff without funding. But we want another one. Apparently that's what he says. So it's your decision. I would love to be your commissioner and serve and work for you, and I just ask for your vote. Thank you.
So thank you. I feel like odd girl out down here in the short one.
We can yell at you. You won't feel like one of
This has been really lively, and my first real debate this whole summer, and I really appreciate the 4 of you and the way you express your ideas, and it really helps me understand what the local issues are and what your concerns are, and what a polite audience. I mean, even when it felt tense at times, everybody is very engaged and smiling, and the moderators were great. This just really was a positive event. So I want to continue on in this work because I'm just now getting good at it. It takes a while in Salem to figure it out. You know, it is just a big, steep learning curve if you've not been in the Capitol, in the building, doing this kind of work. I want to serve my constituents. I'm willing, I'm capable, I understand rural communities, I live here. I love my folks in rural communities, and we are not being heard. There is a real disconnect. It's just a true statement. An urban voter person thinks differently than we do. And so you have to have advocacy in the state. You have to have people who are representing our point of view, our lifestyle, and how we want legislation to come out of Salem. We do need balance. It creates better policy. I don't want either party to dominate the other party. We need to come together. We have big, big issues in this state, and we need to be talking about these together. I am a very agreeable person. I will reach across the aisle. If anybody wants to talk, I'm finding out those people that you actually can talk to. And it is a very relational and transactional building, trying to get legislation through that you really believe in and are passionate about. I'm always looking at it in terms of how it is impacting these local governments, these entities, because we create bills, and the federal government does. So the federal and state laws are just piled on top of our local governments, and they have to figure out how to pay for all that and get those outcomes that we've declared that they should provide. So it is a big job. There's hundreds of bills in short session. I've only just had one short session in redistricting. There'll be thousands. So you have to be really clear about where your decision making comes from. I'm a businesswoman as well, and created 2 small businesses with just my vision and brought those to profitability and sold those businesses. And I've learned a lot about I'm a pragmatic person, and I interact with people in Salem that have very good intentions, but the results are not good. And I'm a person, when I had bad results in business, I changed course. I rethought that. I reconfigured. And what distresses me is people just get so stuck in an ideology, they can't change course at all. They can't see that this is not at all helping people as we had intended to help them. So I'm going back. Thank you for your vote. By the way, I'm written in on the Democratic side. So see, I am very fair. I'm not sure how that happened.
What?
I know. I'm not sure how that happened. But it did. So those of you Democrats in the room, you may see me on your ballot, but I am very serious about keeping in communication with you. It's very important for me to hear it. And whatever your point of view is, I'm quite capable of hearing disagreement. So please reach out to me, and thank you very much for this evening.
Thank you all.
She was written out.
Thank you.